She is our only perfect child, and she deserves the absolute best. The words glow on the screen of my phone, burning like acid into my eyes. It is 9 o'clock at night on my 30th birthday. I am sitting completely alone in my dark apartment in Grand Rapids, Michigan, staring at a cheap grocery store cupcake with a single unlit candle. My mother just posted a picture on Instagram, bragging to her friends about the lavish, $100,000 dream wedding she and my father are fully funding for my younger sister Jolene. They are smiling in the photograph, holding up crystal champagne flutes. The only problem is that they are not using their money. They are paying for those crystal flutes, the custom designer dress, and the extravagant ballroom using the medical emergency fund I spent the last 8 grueling years building for them. They thought I would never check the joint bank account. They thought I was trapped. They did not know that a predator can easily become the prey. Thank you for watching this video. Before I take you back there, do me one small favor. Take a second to like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you are watching from and what time it is where you are. It helps more than you know. My name is Marin and I am 30 years old. For as long as I can remember, I have been the backup plan in my own family. I was the responsible one, the quiet one, the one who was expected to handle every crisis while asking for absolutely nothing in return. I work as a corporate events manager, a job that requires me to negotiate massive contracts, manage vendor relations, and spot financial inconsistencies from a mile away. It is a demanding career, but it pays well, and I have always been deeply proud of the life I built for myself. But in my family, my achievements were entirely invisible. My parents, Sylvia and Desmond, only had eyes for my younger sister, Jolene. Jolene was the golden child. She was delicate, whimsical, and fundamentally incapable of taking care of herself. My parents treated her like royalty, shielding her from every consequence and catering to her every demand. My mother was utterly hypocritical. She would constantly preach about how family comes first, but in her mind, family only meant Jolene. I was just the workhorse. 8 years ago, my father suffered a severe stroke. The medical bills piled up at a staggering rate, and my parents, who had essentially retired early to live off their dwindling savings, were completely devastated. They came to me crying, begging for my help. They said they were going to lose their home. I loved my parents despite everything, and I could not stand to see them suffer. So, I opened a joint bank account. I was the primary account holder, but I gave them debit cards and full access. Every single month for 8 years, I deposited a large portion of my paycheck into that account. I skipped vacations. I drove a rusty old SUV. I lived in a tiny apartment and ate cheap noodles just so I could ensure my father had his medication, his physical therapy, and a safety net for any future medical emergencies. By the time I turned 30, I had sacrificed my own youth to build that account up to exactly $105,000. I thought I was being a good daughter. I thought eventually they would see my immense sacrifice and love me the way they loved Jolene. I was entirely wrong. On the morning of my 30th birthday, I woke up expecting a phone call. Just a simple greeting. The hours ticked by. Morning turned to afternoon, and afternoon turned to evening. My phone remained completely silent. Not a text message. Not a card in the mail. My heart felt heavy, but I tried to brush it off. I went to the store, bought myself a small cupcake, and sat at my kitchen table. That was when I opened my social media and saw the picture. There was my mother, my father, and Jolene standing in front of a gorgeous historic estate. The caption detailed the wedding venue they had just booked. My mother's comment was right beneath it. She is our only perfect child, and she deserves the absolute best. We are so proud to give her the wedding of her dreams. My blood ran completely cold. A profound sense of dread washed over me. My parents had no money. They had absolutely nothing. My fingers trembled as I opened my banking application. I logged into the joint medical account. I stared at the screen, and the entire world shattered into 1,000 pieces. The available balance was $5,000. Beneath it, sitting in the pending transactions, were charges that made me physically ill. $50,000 wired to a luxury event venue. $20,000 pending for an elite catering company. $10,000 for a bridal boutique. They had completely drained my blood, sweat, and tears to throw a party. They did not even bother to call me on my birthday. They were too busy spending my life savings on the golden child. I did not cry. I did not scream. The profound sadness I felt evaporated, leaving behind a core of sheer, staggering ice. The mask had slipped, revealing the hideous truth beneath. I was not a daughter to them. I was an ATM. I was a resource to be consumed until I was entirely hollow. But they had made one catastrophic mistake. They did not know that the money had not fully cleared yet. I smiled. It was a cold, empty smile. I picked up my phone and dialed the 24-hour fraud hotline for my bank. The representative answered, and my voice was completely calm. I explained that I was the primary account holder on the joint account. I explained that my secondary cardholders had initiated massive transfers that I did not authorize for the intended purpose of the account. Because the transactions were still pending for the weekend, and because I had the supreme legal authority over the account, I ordered an immediate stop payment on every single wire transfer and check. I want the secondary cards canceled immediately, I instructed the representative. And I want the remaining balance, along with the stopped funds once they bounce back, transferred entirely to my private individual account. The representative processed the request. With a few clicks on a keyboard, the trap was set. The $100,000 was secured and moving back into my sole possession. The checks they had written to the wedding vendors were going to bounce hard. I went to sleep that night feeling an immense, profound peace. I woke up the next morning, went to work, and drank my coffee. I knew the storm was coming. I knew exactly how long it took for elite wedding vendors to process bounced payments. 3 days later, my phone began to vibrate violently on my desk. It was my mother. I let it ring. It rang a second time, a third time, a fourth time. By the 10th missed call, I finally answered. "Marin!" my mother screamed into the receiver. Her voice was completely frantic, devoid of her usual arrogant grace. "Something is wrong with the bank. The venue just called us. They said the wire transfer was rejected. The dress shop said the check bounced. Call the bank right now and fix this." I leaned back in my office chair. I stared out the window at the busy sidewalk below. I was absolutely calm. "There is nothing wrong with the bank, Mom," I said smoothly. "I canceled the transactions. I revoked your access to the account. And I moved my money to a secure location." There was a stunned, agonizing silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her breathing heavily. "You did what?" she gasped. "Marin, you cannot do that. We signed contracts. We promised Jolene this wedding. You have to put the money back right this instant. You are ruining our family." "That was a medical emergency fund, Mom," I replied, my tone icy and sharp. "Jolene getting married is not a terminal illness." My father grabbed the phone. His voice was booming and aggressive. "Marin, you listen to me. Your sister is fragile. She is not as strong as you are. She needs this. You have always been so selfish. You are going to put the money back, or we are going to disown you." It was the same old snare. The same old guilt trap they had used my entire life. But this time I was immune. "Disown me?" I laughed coldly. "You ignored me on my 30th birthday, while spending $100,000 of my money. Consider me disowned. Good luck with the vendors." I hung up the phone and blocked their numbers. That afternoon, I sat in the break room with my colleague and close friend Kendra. Kendra was a fierce, highly intelligent woman who had survived her own toxic family. I told her everything. She looked at me, completely appalled, but then a slow smile spread across her face. "You did the right thing," Kendra said firmly. "Do not let them gaslight you. You are not their safety net. Use that money for yourself. Build your own empire." Her words resonated deeply within me. I had spent 8 years denying myself every luxury. I decided right then and there to invest in my own future. I used a portion of the retrieved money to enroll in an elite corporate financial planning certification course that I had always dreamed of taking but could never afford. I booked a weekend at a luxury spa. I started treating myself with the respect I had always begged my family to give me. But my parents were not finished. A week later, a lengthy email arrived in my inbox from my mother. It was a masterpiece of emotional manipulation. She claimed I was destroying Jolene's mental health. She claimed they were facing severe legal consequences because they had signed binding contracts with the vendors and could not pay the cancellation fees. She demanded I surrender the money, or they would take me to court for theft. They did not know that a corporate events manager knows the law better than they do. We had crossed the threshold. This was no longer just family drama. This was a matter of legal jurisdiction. I drafted my reply with absolute precision. I reminded them that as the primary account holder, my actions were entirely lawful under federal banking regulations. Furthermore, I pointed out that if they attempted to sue me, I would countersue for fraudulent wire transfers, as they had attempted to misappropriate funds designated and documented for medical use. I attached the bank statements from the last 8 years, highlighting every single deposit I had made, proving I was the sole contributor to the estate. You committed breach of contract with those vendors, I wrote. That liability falls entirely on the signatories of the contract. You do not ever contact me again. I pressed send. The sheer power of that moment was intoxicating. 2 days later, there was a frantic knock on the door of my apartment. I opened it to find Jolene standing in the hallway. She looked completely shattered. Her designer clothes were wrinkled, and her face was stained with mascara. She was weeping uncontrollably. I let her inside, my demeanor guarded and frozen. Jolene collapsed onto my sofa. "Marin, I am so sorry," she sobbed. "I swear to you I did not know. Mom and Dad told me Dad's old investments had finally paid off. They told me they were wealthy now. I only found out the truth when the venue sent a letter from their attorney threatening collections, and I saw the email you sent Mom." I stared at her. The golden child was finally seeing the ugly reality of her kingdom. "They were going to let you pay for my entire wedding without even inviting you," Jolene cried, her voice cracking with profound shame. "I am so disgusted. I canceled everything. We are going to the county courthouse next month. I do not want a dream wedding built on your nightmares, Marin." For the first time in my life, I saw genuine remorse in my sister's eyes. The facade had crumbled entirely. She realized she had been a pawn in their twisted game of favoritism. I sat down next to her and placed a hand on her shoulder. I realized then that my anger was never truly with Jolene. It was with the predators who had raised us. When my mother realized Jolene had canceled the wedding and taken my side, she completely lost her mind. She resorted to the ultimate weapon of the narcissist: public defamation. My mother posted a massive, venomous rant on Facebook. She tagged every aunt, uncle, and cousin in our extended family. She painted a picture of absolute martyrdom. She claimed I was a wealthy, greedy monster who had stolen my sick father's retirement money out of sheer jealousy because I was unmarried and bitter. Within minutes, my phone began to buzz with notifications. Extended family members were commenting, calling me a disgrace, a sociopath, and a terrible daughter. My mother thought public shame would force me into submission. She did not know she had just handed me the rope to hang her with. I took a screenshot of her post. Then, I created a single devastatingly thorough response. I did not use emotional language. I used evidence. I attached a redacted screenshot of the bank ledger, proving I was the sole depositor of the $100,000 over 8 years. I attached the invoice from the luxury wedding venue showing the exact amount my mother had attempted to wire from my medical fund. And finally, I attached a screenshot of her cruel Instagram comment from my birthday, "Our only perfect child." I posted it for the entire family to see. The silence that followed was absolute. The digital world stood completely frozen. Then the tide turned with staggering violence. The aunts and uncles who had just condemned me began to delete their comments. They turned their wrath entirely upon my parents. My aunt called my mother a disgusting fraud. My uncle threatened to call Adult Protective Services to investigate them for financial abuse. My parents were exposed as the parasitic thieves they truly were. My mother desperately deleted the entire post, but the damage was permanently done. Everyone had already seen the screenshots. A month later, my parents were desperate. The wedding vendors had sent their accounts to aggressive collections agencies due to the massive breach of contract. My parents' credit scores were entirely ruined. They begged me for a meeting. They asked to meet at a small cheap diner on the edge of town to discuss a plea deal. I agreed to go. I brought Jolene with me. When we walked into the diner, my parents looked completely drained of color. They looked 10 years older. Their arrogant posture had vanished, replaced by the hunched, fearful body language of cornered prey. My father looked at me, tears welling in his eyes. "Marin, please," he whispered. "They are going to place a lien on our house. We are going to lose everything. Just give us $20,000 to pay the cancellation penalties. Please. Family helps family." I sat across from them, my face an unreadable mask of ice. I looked at the people who had brought me into this world, the people who had willingly sacrificed my future to maintain their illusion of grandeur. "Name one thing," I said softly. My mother blinked, utterly confused. "What?" "Name one thing about me that you are proud of," I said, my voice completely steady. "Name one accomplishment of mine. Name my job title. Name my best friend. Name anything about my life that does not involve the money I gave you." They sat in agonizing, staggering silence. They opened their mouths, but no words came out. They looked at each other in sheer panic. They knew absolutely nothing about me. Jolene stood up from the booth. She looked down at our parents with profound disgust. "You two make me sick," she said firmly. "Do not ever contact either of us again." We walked out of the diner together, leaving them sitting in the wreckage of their own making. We left them to pay the bill. 6 months later, my life is entirely transformed. I passed my certification exams with perfect marks and was immediately promoted to Senior Director of Corporate Events. My salary has doubled. I moved into a beautiful, spacious apartment with a view of the city skyline. Jolene married her partner in a quiet, intimate ceremony at the precinct courthouse. I stood beside her as her maid of honor, and I gifted her a small, reasonable check from my own private account to help them start their life. My parents lost their house. The collections agencies came down on them with federal backing, and they were forced to sell their property to satisfy the immense debt from the wedding contracts. They now live in a tiny rundown apartment on the outskirts of the city, completely ostracized by our extended family. They have no golden child to parade around, and they have no workhorse to exploit. They are completely alone. Sometimes people believe that being a good person means enduring abuse in silence. But I learned that the universe does not reward martyrs. You have to stand up and enforce your own boundaries. I have my peace, my dignity, and my freedom, things their money could never buy. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Have you ever had to set a hard boundary with toxic family members? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more. Stay strong and always know your worth.